Welcome to Here's What I Learned, a podcast that pulls back the curtain on running a coaching business. I'm Jackie Hayes, your host and certified online business manager. I partner with coaches ready to transition from one-on-one coaching to group coaching programs. In my work, I see the day-to-day struggles and celebrations, missteps and triumphs that routinely happen in a coaching business. And on this podcast, my guest and I will shine a light on it all. So sit back, take notes, and enjoy. On today's episode, I have Elisa Owen. Elisa is a business coach known for creating extraordinary results. Her coaching career began in 2019 after 6+ years of running her first business, a thriving papercraft shop. As an accomplished online business owner and natural teacher and guide, she transitioned into coaching where she could help others create their magic in the world. So let's dive right in. Can you tell me why and how you came to coaching as a business?
Yes, absolutely. I came to coaching because I was sick of my other business, really. I had been doing my Etsy business since 2013, and I was tired of doing it. I was making good money doing it, but I was also afraid of the money coming in at the same time because I had not developed a money mindset yet. It was just this like, is someone else going to buy? Is this over forever? Like that was something that just played on and on for me. And I was so sick of it. So it was really fear of how I was feeling that drove me to coaching. And I had always loved talking to other people about their small businesses. And I remember saying, oh, I wish I could be a business coach. And it's funny to think about now because just saying that first thing was really the first thing that started, but it started as a wish, as an impossibility. And being so tired of myself, I started listening to the Life Coach School podcast again. I had listened to it before, but this time it was different where I'm starting at episode 1 and I'm doing the work, whatever is asked of me in that episode. And I did that for a couple months until I thought, oh, I could do this too. So it was really that process of being tired of myself, doing something different, and then just the belief of, oh, I could do this too was what led me to coaching.
I love how you said that you went back to episode 1 and you did the work that was in the episode. Tell me about what that is like, because you're basically getting a course for free when you listen to some of those podcasts. So what was that process like? What did you gain from that? And how did that build your confidence that, and maybe because before you're scared of the money, but you're starting a brand new business. Was that still there with you when you started your coaching business? And did following the Life Coach School podcast help with that or anything?
I think the reason that it helped with it is because I was going after something that I had so much interest and passion in. I went to college for advertising. I got my degree in advertising. I got a master's in psychology. But the reason I got the advertising degree was because I was obsessed with why would people make a decision on something, like what was happening in their head that would make them want to buy. So it was always that background that I was really interested in of what motivated people. And so when I started over again with the podcast and really applying it, things opened up very quickly. I understood myself very quickly. And I think just pairing that with what I have always loved, it made it more possible for me. So even though it's starting from scratch or starting over, it didn't matter because the why was so much bigger than what I had been doing for work, both 9-to-5 work and my business work, my Etsy business up until then. It was just completely different arena.
So then after you got started, did you get certified from the life coach school, or just that was enough to get you going?
Yes, I did get certified. That was actually one of the moments I remember the most is as I'm listening to these podcasts and going so deep every day, I thought, oh, I think Brooke has a podcast that's called Should I Be a Life Coach? I found it. I listened to it. I cried through the whole thing. I was home alone, I remember. And because I just knew this was my next move, and it came with excitement and fear of, oh shit, this is my next move. And my husband came home and I told him. And at the time, you couldn't enroll because there was just there's periods when you can't enroll. And so I didn't know how much it was. And that was like the first fear that comes up, of course, money stuff. And he's just sitting there like, okay, sounds good. He's just kind of along for the ride with it. But yeah, that was my next thing. And just a few weeks later, I received the email, okay, it's open. And that was another oh shit moment because like, okay, well, I guess I have to make the move now. So I did. And I was making my Etsy business would bring in 5 to 10,000 a month. So it was money that kept flowing. And I was able to pay like those initial payments. But then I didn't have it was $18,000 at the time, and I didn't have the rest of it. So I had paid $6,000 and I wanted the other 12. So we flew this wasn't the reason for the trip, but we flew to visit my parents. And I sat down with my dad and I told him everything. And I was so afraid to tell him about the life coach school because it's not traditional school. And, but he didn't have that opinion. I had a lot of assumptions about what he would think. It was fine. I asked him to borrow the money and he gave it to me. So that just felt like such a big ask. And then I was all in. And I started that year. So that was in 2019 is when I enrolled.
Okay. How have you used your background in advertising to help you build your business?
I don't know that, like, if I'm thinking about the degree itself, I don't know that I have used it because in the sense of here's the information in the textbook and then go apply it to the real world. I think the way that it has been used is the first job that it put me into, which was a sales job on the phone, terrified 22-year-old. That's what I got from it. And the things that come to mind are the working together in teams and having to speak up. So it's really not even about the content, but about finding my voice. And I think that applies to, any degree that you're getting, but it's that piece. And then also knowing of the reason why I loved it. And it was, as I described before, that really wanting to know what makes people make a decision. Mm-hmm. So going after that question is really compelling to me.
I was just listening to your Instagram live. I think it was from today, maybe it was yesterday, about the helping your clients with their language on their website. And when you're talking about what it is that helps people make a decision, it made me think of that because you were talking about how the website was nice and warm, and then there was the consult call page was cold. Can you talk a little bit about the language to use on, say, your sales page for booking that consult call? Because I think coaches or people who work with coaches a lot just we're steeped in the language, so we don't do a lot of explaining of what exactly happens on a discovery call or a consult call. And so we don't think about somebody who's brand new to the world.
Yes, I love this question. Okay, so I'm just going to use an example that was in this quote cold consult description. So just to give that background. So my client had a beautiful website. It feels amazing, which is what I'm looking for, is how does it make me feel when I'm reading the words, when I see her photos? What is it bringing up for me as a pair of fresh eyes? And how does that connect? I'm thinking about her ideal client and how would that person be feeling? So that's what I'm looking for in what she's created on the site. And then when we click on the consult link, many people haven't done a call like that before. I work with coaches most of the time, so that's different. I work with people who are in the world speaking the language, but for the weight loss coaches, for the marriage coaches, for just other people who are working with non-coaches, what do they think about a consult call and what do they need to know? So one of the bullet points that she had listed of describing what the call was we'll talk about your goals. And yes, we will talk about the goals, right? But why does that person care? And that needs to be spelled out for people a lot of times. As a coach, we can many times see the future a lot more clearly than they can. They're in it. And even if they have maybe a goal in mind, it can feel very far away. So what's the benefit of talking about it on this call? So if I were going through this process with somebody, it's like, let's just lay out, just tell me what are the things that are going to happen on this call. Tell me in coach speak, it doesn't matter. Just lay it out for me. But then once you have those pieces, you're going to ask, what's the benefit of talking about this for the person? And even what is the emotion that it brings up for them? Maybe it's relief that they're actually saying it out loud. Maybe this is going to invite tears for them. So looking at it from their perspective is going to allow them to connect with the reason for the call and place themselves in that space rather than it being like this unknown, how's this going to work, getting on with a stranger kind of thing.
Yeah, and when people are reaching out for a coach, it's usually because there is something in their life that, it's very personal and they may not have shared it with anybody else and they're looking for somebody to help them through that. And so getting on a call with a complete stranger and not knowing what to expect when you have this, personal thing that you need to talk to somebody about, it's really important that you understand what's coming.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, anything you can do to create that warmth is the word that's coming to me, but also helping them to feel seen and an understanding of, I know where you are and that's welcome here. I am able to hold space for what you're bringing to me. And not that it's uninteresting, like it's not an uninteresting problem to the coach, but it's not a big deal because you're used to it. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, a great way to create comfort for them.
What are your thoughts in relation to when people are making decisions, what motivates them and what you should write on your website or your sales page? There's a lot of people who push pain points, talk about their pain points, pain points. And then there's others who are like, no, talk about where they're going to be. What are your thoughts on those two different dynamics?
The thing about pain points is I think it has a negative connotation with it where we're taking advantage of, I'll push on these. And then it's going to motivate somebody to reach out equals I make money. So to me, it just depends on how you're defining pain points. And because I would say, yeah, let's talk about the thing of, I know how you're feeling right now. I just wouldn't call it pain points. So I would say, yes, I totally see where you are right now. I've been there. These are the attributes, the aspects of how I know you're feeling right now. And then we're going to go over here. So, I would say share both of them. We're walking them through a story of, I know how to get you across the bridge. But using pain points is kind of up to your discretion. Do you want to call it that? How do you want to define it? It's your choice. But the main thing I would say is helping people to feel seen in your words. That's really, they're taking an action based on how you're making them feel. So do you want to make them feel urgent about their pain or seen in their pain and loved in their pain.
I have to say that your Instagram stories do a very good job of what you're describing right here, of talking about a certain situation. You are here now. Let's get you to this next place and then to the next place. Where do you come up with the content ideas for your stories? Because they're just, it seems like you come up with a new one every day and they're very well thought out and they land every time for me. Almost every single one of your stories, I'm like, well, got a message there. It's like she was talking directly to me today.
Thank you. Oh, that's exciting. My ideas, well, I have the belief that ideas are everywhere around me. I'm never searching for an idea. I have too many ideas that 90% of them aren't making it because there's not enough energy for them. So I think that's a great foundation to have is ideas are everywhere. Every conversation that I have, there's a piece of it that I can pull out. I can go shopping at Costco and someone that's in line next to me, I can notice something about them and see what they're purchasing and make a story out of it. So it's this background of I can always create a story and find a lesson in something. And that makes it really easy to find lessons. So every call that I have during the week, I'm taking notes, as I'm coaching or getting coached, and I'll put stars next to things that are like, okay, I could talk about this thing. I could relate it. I am in the process I've been working out I have a 19-week streak going right now. So I always think about how I'm going with that and then how it relates to business. So I'm just taking the stuff that I'm already doing, the slowness of how I'm making my salad yesterday. I'm thinking, ooh, I'm going slow right now. It feels so great. How can I relate that to business? How can I deliver this as a message? So that paired with, it doesn't have to be a perfect message either. And if I just think this could help one person and the one person might just be me, then that's enough of a reason to put it out there. So that frees me up to be able to just keep putting things out and allow it to be imperfect and to hear your feedback right now on how my stuff comes off is validation that that's true, because the busy mind, the chatter about this doesn't make any sense, this is crap, everybody already knows that doesn't go away. But it's the willingness to set that aside and then show up anyways with the message and say, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm going to say today.
I think you're saying the words, everybody already knows that. It's funny because I think we all have that in whatever our perspective field happens to be. It doesn't matter, because sometimes they know it, but I mean, you go to a coach and how often do they just tell you the things that you already know that you're just not willing to see, or they say something to you. I remember trying to learn red phase, blue phase, something in physics, and I asked my brother about it, and I had classes and classes and classes at school, and my brother literally said 3 words, and I was like, oh, now I get it. I'm so glad I spent thousands of dollars at college and you just told me everything I needed to know in 3 words. Thank you. So sometimes, yes, everybody already knows it or everybody else has already said it, but somebody needed to hear it the way you said it.
Yes, absolutely. And I love reiterating that to my clients because of course they can think the same thing. Well, it's weight loss. Everybody already knows this stuff. Well, they don't know it from your mouth and your experience. It's so unique. You have 20 years of how you've thought about your body that you're bringing to the conversation. And I've had an Etsy shop that I started in 2013 to escape a 9 to 5. Like that's a very specific situation that I'm now able to bring to the conversation too. So yes, such a great point.
Way, way, way back in the day, I was a personal trainer. And when I first got started, one of my close friends was like, well, how are you, holding up to the fact that if I Google personal trainer, there's, thousands in the area that I could choose from. And my response to her was, none of them are me. No, granted, I wasn't as confident as that, but it was like, the right people will find me because they'll like my style of personal training. And so it's the same, it's kind of the same thing. So,
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I think what you just said can be such an overlooked belief because I have thought that about myself too before I started the coaching business. And I actually wrote about this in an email today that confidence of, well, they're not, no one else is me, or I just know this is going to work, and having that innate knowing is so powerful, but it doesn't come with a plan. And that's the part where you can start questioning yourself. But anybody who already has that piece of, okay, well, it's just going to work and no one else is me, you can build such a big business off of just that without the plan.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So how does one get over because I am a planner? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's my whole entire business model.
Yes.
So, but if somebody is starting a business and they have that confidence of, it's me, or they're working on that confidence, what's their next step? What would you suggest they do? Because you don't, even if you have a plan, that doesn't mean that life's going to follow the plan that you have laid out.
Sure. Yeah. And when you said, what's their next step? I just thought, this is an annoying coach thing, probably, but I just thought, what is your next step? And putting it back on them, because I don't know. I really don't. It's all about trying the next thing. And I know, like, most of my clients, just like me, we want to kind of think, a few months out. Okay, well, when this happens, then I'll be able to do that thing, and then I can quit my job, and we just start rolling with it. And that's where the spiral can happen, because we're not there yet. We're just painting the vision of the future that we don't know that's going to happen. So bringing yourself back emotionally to grounded, I think, is always the next best step. Choose an emotion that feels good to you. Maybe it's grounded, maybe it's certainty, maybe it's willingness, whatever that is that you want to cultivate in your body that allows you to just do the very next thing. Maybe it's just that next post. Maybe it's signing up for a networking event. Maybe it's, whatever email you're going to send out, whatever. But deciding on an emotion, to me, feels so much more like a sure thing than deciding on plans.
You're talking about, getting grounded and being in the moment. And there was another one of your Instagram lives that I really loved, which was a moment of stopping and pausing, which was, I believe it was your daughter practicing her letters, if I remember correctly,
Oh,
and
yes.
you being ready to be like, okay, let's go on to the next one. And she was just so excited that she got it, and that was a lesson to you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. It was the number 5 that she wrote. So she is 3.5. She goes to Montessori school. She does a lot of writing, and she was doing her homework. She has once weekly homework, and it's a worksheet, of practicing tracing letters, and then you draw it, or numbers in this case, and then draw it once on your own. And I was watching her do it, and I'm looking at the clock. Like, okay, let's go, keep going on to the next. She's enjoying herself. And she draws a very good 5. It's not on the lines at all. It's under the lines, but it's a quality 5. And she looks at me, and she looks at me, and she's just so proud. And I was in the middle of saying, okay, go to the next one, because you do it 5 times in a row or something. And she just sat back and really took in that moment. And I just realized we don't need to get on to the next. Like, that's how hustle energy begins. That's how it starts getting taught to us is, okay, let's hurry up and get to the finish line. Okay, you made it here. Good job. You're supposed to. On to the next one. And that's largely how I have operated my business. Not my coaching business so much, but my Etsy business for sure. Was set the goal, meet it, quick pat on the back. Yay, you did it. No real emotional celebration. And then on to the next month, we start again tomorrow. And so seeing her just take that pause and really feel pride for herself, it was a reality check of, I am pushing her. I am bringing my hustle in implementing it here, and I can have the opportunity to lean back. I mean, who cares if she doesn't finish the worksheet? She drew an amazing 5. It's great. She's going to be fine.
Have you started implementing more of a practice of celebration in your business since then? And what does that look like if you have?
Yes, definitely a practice of celebration is happening. So for the way that I use it with my clients is we always begin with a celebration on our calls. Many times the answer is, I don't have one. Doesn't matter. Report one anyway. Let's think. We're stretching into it. And then for myself, so I will do that on every time I have a call in my mastermind group that I'm in. We're being asked for celebrations there. And whether I'm reporting it live or not, I'm finding one no matter what. I'm committed to finding one. And it really has been a practice of celebrating small things. So not just in my business, but for example, on Saturday, I went to Target with my husband, date night at Target, and I found 27 cents and I was real excited about it. I mean, I felt it. When I find coins, I always think of it as a wink from the universe, as a thing, and I say thank you. And it's like, yep, there's another one. So that joy that can be felt in the body, I feel that on purpose when I find a penny and another penny and a quarter. Just so happened in that case. Target is a hot spot for coins, by the way. But yeah, so I try and bring it in intentionally as often as I can. Of course, I feel bad half the time, but choosing the small things to celebrate, I think makes it so much easier to then build up to being available for celebrating something bigger, like a 5-figure month or whatever it might be. But you have to like take in the small things like drawing a 5 or finding a quarter at Target too.
I think there's two things to that as well. Is one, getting your nervous system used to celebrations. And two, I mean, little things happen every single day. If you're sitting around and waiting for big things, you're not going to be celebrating as often as you could. So
absolutely. Yes, I totally agree that it is stretching your nervous system bit by bit to be able to accept those bigger wins. And it's putting a lot of pressure on that bigger win also to be the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure to put on that. I just did a mini episode that I released today, which was adjusting to success, because we always think success is just rainbows and unicorns, and we do not realize that your brain comes up with new thoughts to stumble over and think about, because now you're on a bigger stage or whatever it happens to be. And so you have to regulate to that success when you level up. What has that experience been like for you?
Oh, I just had an amazing example pop into my head as you're talking. I was in my first mastermind group in the summer of 2020. And at that point in my coaching business, I had never made more than $1,600 in a month. And I was tired of that. I wanted to break through. So I set a goal for 5,000 for the following. So this was July, my goal was 5,000. And it just so happened that my coach who was running the group, she also just set a goal for everybody. 5,000 is the goal for this month. And so my brain was already on board with it and I was committed. I did new things that I hadn't done before, more self-coaching, more getting coached, and daily reminders coming through on my phone, congratulating me ahead of time. I was doing all the things and it worked. I created $9,000 and I had it done in 17 days. I was the first person to get it done in the group. And I found it so interesting. I actually didn't find it interesting at the time. I found it terrifying. Now I find it interesting that I didn't want to tell them. I didn't want to report it because I didn't want to make them feel bad. Like, oh, Elisa, you think you're so great. You're the first one. All of this chatter coming up for me. And that was the first time I really believed that it's not better there than here. because it came with so much shame that I made the money and almost doubled the goal. So that acclimation period of going through all of that, I don't think I was even aware enough of to see that was happening really until further down the line. I don't know how to finish my sentence. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
I think one of the things that I found interesting in a lot of what you just said is one of the things that I think a lot of women deal with. And I know it's something that I am personally working with right now in my mindset, which is it's not, bragging, quote unquote. You're not doing anybody any good by not being proud of your achievements, and it's perfectly okay to share them. What has that been like for you in your business of now that you have started to share those things in your mastermind and talking about your accomplishments? What was that like for you?
Well, when you're talking about sharing accomplishments, the first thing that popped in my head was that has made me money. Being willing to share my wins has created more wins, which of course, like attracts like. It's me being willing to recognize those things and amplify them by saying, hey, look what I did. It invites other people in who are also curious about that. And I think when you're willing to share your wins and talk about your accomplishments and feel pride alongside feeling whatever else there is, like I'm going to just move forward and let pride lead here, then it shows people how you think about yourself. And we might have things to say about that. We're like, oh, they're going to think I'm full of myself, or I think I'm better than them. But really, your true thoughts about yourself, which is maybe I'm really good at this. I know how to help people. I've helped myself. Whatever those kind of foundational beliefs are that you have shined through in the sharing. And then people can see that concept that you have about yourself and say, I want to think that about me too. And that's what connects the two of you. And it's kind of funny because you're not even necessarily saying, oh, this is what I think about myself. It's just coming through in the message. And they're like, I want to be more like that. I want to feel more that way. I want what she's having. So every time you celebrate yourself, you're inviting people to also have those same great experiences. It's not about you. I mean, it's about you, and it's also not about you. It's both.
What has been one of your most important wins? Not necessarily the biggest win, but one of the most important wins when it comes to your business?
My most important win was my first $0 month, actually. Because since I had been in business since 2013, I had never had a $0 month unless it was an intentional, I'm on maternity leave. But I had never tried to make money and not made money. And so that was the biggest win because it required me to lean on myself for security, to build up a safety muscle inside of me that was not so strong before, because it was always relying on the next payment to create security in the body. So having a $0 month followed by another one where the first one is oh, it's going to be fine. It's stages of grief, really. It's denial and then panic. I don't know the actual order of stages of grief, but that did cross my mind as I was experiencing this. And that's really what happened is the brushing it off, the freaking out, and then the grounding into, okay, I'm going to recommit and I'm here and I am going to create safety in my body and make decisions and make moves rather than the lean back and wait for things to happen. So, and to me, that's so much more invaluable than, hey, look, I had a 25K month. Yes, I've done that too, but I just don't think it built up the same, it didn't provide the same emotional growth that something that a $0 month does.
I like to think of those like $0 months or those little things that obstacles, etc. Every once in a while, I'll just be like, that's just the universe testing my resolve. Like, am I committed to this or am I not committed to this? If I'm going to use this one bump in the road to say I'm out, well, then obviously I wasn't actually as committed as I may have thought or said I was. You were running an Etsy shop, which is a product-based business. So obviously the way that kind of business runs has a certain way of going day-to-day operations. Have you taken any of those lessons and applied them to your coaching business?
I think the biggest lesson that I have applied is really how not to do things, because being in the Etsy shop and it being product based, I received an order and then I made it and then it went out. So it's reactive in that way. And it felt a bit out of my control at times where, yes, I could put the shop on vacation mode so no one could buy anything. I could turn it off that way. But if I just left it on, then I don't know how many people are going to buy on any certain day. And so week to week, it was, well, how much am I going to be making? How long am I going to be working? How many post office runs at 9 p.m. are there going to be? And that kind of life is what I really learned I didn't want. That was the biggest lesson that I took away from it was I don't want to be in reactive mode. I want to be driving the business. I want to be directing the way that I want it to be. That's a hard question for me because they feel so different, and it just feels like such a lifetime ago that I was doing that and really not enjoying it. I committed to enjoying it again at the end because I didn't want to hate it until the end. And I had to love it because it was it was funding me, right? It was bringing in money while I was learning how to market myself. And that was what felt like kind of the end of it, was me really loving it and then deciding I had to cut it off at some point to let the other thing grow. I couldn't keep being like having my one foot in each. It wasn't serving either one.
I think it's incredibly possible, and I know that there are a lot have done this, especially when they first start their coaching business, to continue in that reactive mode, regardless of if they have that from corporate or their own product-based company or something along those lines, but to continue functioning in reactive mode, whether that's I'll coach clients at any time of day or things along those lines. So what have you put into place so that you are in responsive mode or you are directing the bus? What kind of daily practices, operations, scheduling works for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that question. And I think that I absolutely remained in reactive mode for a while because at the beginning you are wanting to do what it takes to make it work. You're wanting to be available. One of the things that I did closer to the beginning of my business was I would print out, I had Acuity calendar system, and I would print out my schedule every week. And it might just have a couple calls on it, maybe when I'm meeting with my coach and some free clients that I had or whoever I had. So I'd print it out and I had my availability in there, of course, but I would actually mark out when I wanted clients to fill in the spots. So I would take a highlighter and I'd write client, client, client. And I did this every week. And to me, that felt like directive energy where, yes, my calendar is open, right? And it's available. But when I saw that, it helped me connect to, I want to fill this hour with a paying client. And it was so weird because I actually filled every spot, like the actual spots that I was outlining, they did fill in. And I think it's because I wasn't in, well, let's wait and see what happens, but just taking that kind of action that felt determined. And I just like the word directive for that of this is when I want to have people. And then sure enough, that is when I had people. So now I don't do that anymore. I do have a more limited calendar now because I I know when my energy is best. And I like to work in a 3-hour block, have a break, and maybe something later. But I really don't like to do more than 3 hours of work, intense, like I'm coaching someone work, more than that per day. So, and that feels really good to be able to limit that and let people have the best of me rather than, spreading thin to make sure I'm accommodating everybody.
As we wrap up here, is there something that you would say to somebody who's just starting out as a coach? What kind of advice would you give them as far as running a coaching business?
I would have 2 pieces of advice. Number 1, you already know enough to help somebody right now. You don't need more because you're going to connect with your right person who's at the right level for you now. You don't need to know everything. And then secondly, be willing to just say the words, meaning like before I had any clients, I went to a networking event, an in-person one. So this was pre-COVID. And I just said the words, I'm a coach. What do you help people with? And I just had to practice saying what I was helping people with. And even this has come up other times when I raised my prices and I had 2 consult calls scheduled for the next week. And I thought, I'm willing to just say the price and hear no, just to get into that next level. I've heard it described as when you're repotting a plant. So it's outgrown the pot and you need to put it in a bigger one, but it's kind of awkwardly in the bigger one. And that's how it starts. But you need to put yourself in that awkward position of feeling that. So whatever that next move is for you, that feels like this is going to push me and it's getting me out of my comfort zone, that is the thing to do. And that's what's pushing you forward.
Where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me absolutely on Instagram. I love hanging out over there. I do stories daily-ish. My handle is at Elisa Owen Coaching. I am on Facebook too. And I have a Facebook group that I am going to be presenting in tomorrow. I'm going to be doing a class in there and some open coaching. So that will become a more frequent thing. So you can join me in there. It's called The Secrets of Self-Concept Shifting. And those are really my 2 main places that I'm hanging out.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Here's What I Learned. Be sure you subscribe and leave a review. You can find the show notes at jackiehayes.online/podcast. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to my email list and get access to my free resource library. Until next time.